of the day where we're all ready to listen to how we can survive in these current times where we have so much social vices and social issues we need to deal with. And that's why Flipside was created to talk about social matters and then give solutions that are workable to them. My name is Daisy Obaisa, and you're welcome to today's edition of the program Flipside. I have three guests in the house that will be joining me to mark today's International Day on the Eradication of Poverty. So everywhere in the world today, they're all marking, I don't want to say celebrating, but we're all observing the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. So independent television cannot possibly be left out. So if you're watching on terrestrial TV right now, just know that you can watch us on GoTV channel 107, and you can also watch us on Star Times channel 130. This program is broadcast live. You can watch it on GoTV and Star Times right now too. And then there will be a repeat broadcast at 4 a.m. Tomorrow morning. And from tomorrow, you can also get the complete edition of the program on YouTube. So keep your dials locked. You know the drill. We'll go on a break. When we come back from that break, you may meet my guest, and then we will talk on our topic, which is poverty on a rampage. We'll be right back. All right, for those who just joined us, we've not missed much apart from the small informations that we just shared, the Did You Know, and of course the Name for the Day segment of the show. But we're about talking on poverty on the rampage, and I'm Daisy Obaisa. But I'm not alone in the house today. I have three men with me in the studio, so let's just get to meet them before we get talking. I have very close to me here, Right Honorable Philip Asur. He's the immediate past chancellor of Ego local government. He was a two-time chancellor there, and he's also the chairman Niger Delta Youth Movement. He's also the financial secretary of the APC Ego local government chapter.
Yeah.
So it's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Same sex. Okay, so we have another young gentleman here in the house. He's an accountant. I am talking of none other than Bolaji Otanie. Okay, so it's good to have you here. He's an accountant amongst other things. So chartered accountant. And then we have the most elderly amongst us and with the biggest experience, yes, to talk about this financial matter, an economist, a doctor. I have here with me Dr. Clement Igodara.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. They've never seen you on Flipside, but they've seen you on This Morning on ITV. So first time on the show, to all three of them, first time on Flipside. It won't be the last time though. So we're talking about poverty on the Rampage because today is International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. And we do know that the world defines poverty. They begin to say you're poor when daily you live on less than $1. Then you go to a church and then you hear that poverty is not about how much you earn or how much you spend, but it's a thing of the mind. So I'm just going to ask you, Honorable Philip, what does poverty actually mean to you?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. Poverty is when somebody cannot provide its basic needs. You cannot get shelter, you cannot get food, and you cannot get clothing. Anybody that cannot meet those requirements is living in abject poverty. Because when a man cannot feed himself, you cannot get a shelter over your head, and you cannot get clothes to wear, I think that person is living in abject poverty. So I think basically,
if you cannot provide
your
needs, so even though some days you get about $2 to spend, provided you cannot meet all your basic needs, you're still poor.
Yeah.
Now there was a recent statistics, Mr. Bolaji, that Nigeria is ranked the poorest nation in the world as of this year, 2010. We used to be, they did a survey in 2016 of about 188 countries, and we were 153rd, so we were above about 34, 35 countries, so we're still feeling fly. But right now, we've overtaken India and Congo DR that doesn't even have anything. So I'm just gonna, what do you feel about the statistics? Are they overblowing it? Do you think they're even beating it down? And do you think it's right that we are the poorest nation in the world? 87 million people are believed to be poor in Nigeria.
Well, I want to say that the problem we are having is that of insincerity of purpose. Because as a nation, we have all it takes to actually take care of our people. The resources is there, the manpower, the capacity, we have it. But the problem we are really having is the issue of leadership. And oftentimes, different administration come in to tell us different things they want to do. If you look at what we have on paper, it's excellent. But when it comes to execution, it's something else. So I feel the problem we are having is the reality of we not having leadership with sincerity. So we have all it takes, but the situation we are having is that we're having people that have so much, but they're actually in lack, or being by the side of the river, and you're washing your hand with the spittle.
Okay, so you accept the statistics that we are the poorest?
Based on statistics, I would say okay, but in terms of reality or what we have, it's not true.
Okay, well now, how do we even argue that when Nigeria have no statistics of their own? Yeah. All right, now, you did say something about government coming in and trying to do something to stop poverty, but they just give us a lot of beautiful plans and it doesn't work. Now, since 1979, we've had different government coming up to give us plans of how they're going to eradicate poverty. We have Olusegun Obasanjo came up with the OFN, Operation Feed the Nation plan, and then immediately left power. Shehu Shagari came up with his own, and then you had the Green Revolution, and there are several governors, presidents, and everyone has been coming up. Sani Abacha came up with his own Family Economic Advancement Program. Then Obasanjo came back again with National Poverty Eradication Scheme. And right now, President Muhammadu Buhari has come out with several orders. He came in and allocated about 500 billion to begin to deal with poverty. That's a lot of money. But so far, so good, I don't know. We have the Empower, where they give 30,000 to youths right now. We have Operation Feed the Children. They're eating in schools now. I've not seen them eating in Edo State, but they're eating in some schools. That's it. Dr. Sir, I'm going to direct this question to you. We've had several governments trying or claiming to try to really help stop these old poverty issues, but why is it that the more they try, the more money they allocate, the more poor people we have in the nation? Why aren't we seeing results of all their investments?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to look at, there are dimensions of poverty. You have the absolute type, you have the relative type, you have the extreme type. When you say poverty is relative, You are looking at, you might be rich in a particular place. When you go to the next community, you might not be rich based on, the prevailing trend, things that are trendy there. Okay. Sometimes when you say it's absolute, it means, well, your income, like my colleague defined just now, you can't meet your, just the basic things of life, shelter and others. Then when you say it's extreme, which is the issue now, is when, you cannot, they have what called poverty line, that's 1.25. It has even gone beyond the $1. Which means that every Nigerian that cannot spend close to that amount, and living below that amount, it means we are extremely poor. Then in terms of policies you'll be talking about, yeah, there has been a series of policies, like you talked about OFN. Even before OFN, there was the farm settlement scheme, where some school leavers, school leavers then, it was a big thing to leave secondary school. They put them in the farm to work, but that one did also meet the basic needs of people then, because it was a kind of politicized. We also have OFN, which Obasanjo bring. In fact, the basic thing is all these programs we are talking about is just, they didn't work. They didn't work because of basically corruption. Everybody wants to get for his own pocket. If you also look at the recent time, let's come back to the recent policies, like UWIN that we just talked about, where people are supposed to be trained. Then when they are trained, what next? You talk about Empower, yeah, people are supposed to be employed somewhere based on what they want to do, then they are paid 30,000 naira a month. The question I want to ask now is, how did they arrive at those numbers? How did they arrive at those that we're going to do a particular, that we do a particular work? And in terms of the poverty figure, even if they say it has risen up to, even when you look at people walking in the streets, that poverty is written almost in some people's faces. And it is true. We are not really seeing poverty in action because we have not gone to some villages. When you go to some villages, you understand what I'm talking about. If you go to the extreme north, you really see poverty in action. If you go to some villages in the east, you see poverty in action. And some of these policies are not working, not because they are not there, but implementation is the issue. And politicization of policies. I know 2019 is coming, elections are coming on. Some of these policies will come up again, where you see them really working. Not working because they really want them to work, but you want to create an impression that, it is working, and to secure votes from people. So it's not really working, not because the policies are not there, just because of the political will for it to work, and implementation. That's the basic thing. Thank you.
All right, now, Honorable Asoro, we know that government, as this particular administration, also came up, apart from the Feeding the Nation, the YES scheme, and NPAR, and all the others, they believe that agriculture is the way forward, not only to boost our economy, but once people have food, poverty is gone. So there seems to be a lot of talk on farming. Do you really believe that making food available is the cure to this prevailing issue of poverty in our nation?
Well, I think, first of all, once a man can feed himself, then you are also being able to feed other people. And when we're talking about farming, if you are into farming and you can feed yourself, which means you can also sell some of those crops that you are growing, or some of those livestock that you're having, which also means you're going to generate funds for yourself. And by so doing, it means you're also going to be able to buy your clothes. Also, you have the capacity to also have shelter over your head. So I so think that farming, will go a long way to eradicate poverty. But we are also having a lot of problems as regard that section, because the president asked so many people, youth, everybody, to go back to farming. But with news on a daily basis, people try to go back to farming, but we have the issue of these herdsmen bringing their cattle And okay, just like for example, you are growing a cassava, which is going to take months to get to the final stage. And how will you feel like about 2 months to your harvest, cattle enters your farm and destroy everything you have been laboring for, everything you have spent your finances, your time, your strength upon, and at the end of the day, you are dejected. You are not happy with the situation. I think if we can have a good environment where our farmers can do their job really well, it will go a long way. Like before now, we used to hear about cocoa, even before the advent of this oil. Nigeria we were really living on livestock. From the north, you have the groundnut pyramid, we have cocoa, we have our timber, we have our cotton, and so on and so forth. So I think farming will go a long way, but we must try to make sure that anybody that is going into farming, it's protected. It has that insurance. That's what you are laboring for. In a couple of months' time, you are going to harvest, and you are going to have smile in your face. So I think if we can work basically on this section, it will go a long way to eradicate poverty, because if I can feed myself, I think that's the very first thing for any human being to strive for, at least feeding yourself to be alive, first of all.
Okay. So, Bolaji, can I call you that? Okay, fine. Now, between farming and education, which would be the best solution to stopping poverty? Because I'm a farmer, and no offense to you because I know you're into farming. I'm a farmer, and then I produce a lot of food. Maybe cows do not even come to my farm. Maybe I'm farming the sky because they're everywhere now. Eventually, I'm able to get my crops out. How do I transport them? How do I preserve them? Without education, can I really do that? So I don't know. Between education and agriculture, which would be the best to stop it, poverty? Which do you think?
I would say education, because for you to be a good farmer, you need to be educated. And also, before you can actually turn your product into commercial value, you need education. That's where information comes in. So if you want to look at education as an industry, that's also something that we have to look at. But basically, before you can turn your produce into what people could buy, you need information. Then for you to be able to do your agricultural practice well and be able to grow your crops well, you also need information. Then when it comes to the aspect of commercialization, you need education. So I've also heard of a time whereby we used to have this extension worker that goes from one rural community to the other, meeting those in the rural area, trying to teach them on how to improve on their product, their seed quality. So information and education is very, very important. It's key to even growing our agriculture very well. Okay. So I would want to say, for us to be able to come out of poverty, the first thing that we need is education, information. So when you are properly informed about what life is and even how to live well, it becomes easy for you to come out of poverty. So I want to also come to something where I heard him talking about the poverty of the mind. No, you talked about the poverty of the mind. Yes. Yeah. Because sometimes in church, you go to some churches, they tell you that it's not so much about what you have in your account or what you have and what you do with your hand, but it has more to do with your mind. It's true to some extent, because I've also seen people that have so much and yet they cannot do anything with it, because this has to do with the quality of their mind. And I was trying to look at the definition of poverty. I was able to see three strata in the concept of poverty. The first one I saw was the poverty of the soil, the poverty of the blood, and another one was the poverty of the spirit. So when one is poor in spirit, though in church to be poor in spirit has its own definition. When you have a need for God and for God's divine intervention, that's a key. But the poverty of the spirit, I feel that particular person was talking about, is when one is actually poor in his mind. When your mind is empty, even when we give you ₦1 million, In the next couple of days, you come back begging. You've often heard of those that are into this lottery winner, those that won lottery. In less than 4 or 5 days or a month or 2 months, you see them going back begging. So I feel when one is well taught and informed about how to develop himself and also how to turn little things into something very important or big, automatically the person can walk out of poverty.
Okay. All right, yeah. Doctor, are you a Christian? Okay, cool. Seems like we're all Christians here. Now, I did a little bit of research on countries that were rich in the world and then the countries that were poorest in the world. Amongst the top 25 richest countries, I really could not lay my hands on one African country. We had Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Iceland, and all of those countries. Now, what was peculiar about them was they were hardly believers of anything. The bulk of the people in their nation are free thinkers. The religion they believe is the religion of themselves. We create our own destinies. We'll make it in life if we work hard and think smart, and they're prospering. Now, then I came down to the poorest countries, Africa, Nigeria, or most of them were Africa, Nigeria, Somalia, Congo DR, Afghanistan. They're believers of something. It's either you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Hindu person. They just have one religious belief and they take it to the extreme. Everybody had something they believed in. So I'm thinking, is religion not a major problem while we're poor?
Well, first of all, when we are looking at poverty, you see, we should situate it. Are we talking of poverty of the mind? Are we looking at economic poverty, what I would call financial poverty? If we are talking of poverty of the mind, it's a different ballgame. You could be as wealthy as anything. Like you said, when you are poor in thinking and others, you remain like that.
Okay. We're talking of poverty that you cannot feed yourself, you cannot clothe
So we are
yourself.
looking at financial poverty.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Now we can situate it properly. When you are trying to relate religion and poverty, yes, I think it has to do with individual thing. Sometimes you look at the way churches are springing up today. You can see that if you want to look at it in terms of research now, you can even see that poverty, churches are even sources of, some churches, let me not generalize, some churches are even sources of employment to some people, thereby impacting negatively on poverty. What I mean by that is there are some people who cannot even get a job. The next thing they do is to go to one Christian school. They become, pastor, maybe probably having spiritual call or did they have spiritual call. And before you know what is happening, something will start rolling in. And that financial poverty will begin to go down gradually, So if you look at the Western world, most of them do not really believe in some of these things, that they are doing well. Don't you think we should begin to look at, if we put religion aside, we talked about education just now, education and agri, which one is better? We should have also gone for that to say what level of education are we talking about? Yeah. Are you talking of primary education, secondary education, university education? We also have the polytechnics. You must find a way to delineate some of these things before you can properly situate it. But let me assume we are looking at religion now, where religion has a role to play in the sense that, number one, if you really believe in the God you serve, you know that hard work pays. Hard work pays. I'm going to the altar to preach. I don't see that as hard work. Because anybody can. It's true. I'm on television now. Anybody can go there and pray and preach. A good teacher can even preach. You understand? But the thing is, are you really gifted spiritually? That is the question. Then whether religion is added to poverty or not, the thing is, before you became a pastor, who were you? What were you doing? Do you have a second address? When we say second address, assuming this church closes, what will you do? That is why you believe some churches today, I don't want to mention any name, they will say before they even make you their pastor, you should have something doing. There are so many churches today, as far as this ministry is concerned, it's on survival basis. Not all of them, some of them. So if you want to relate it now, we cannot say in that context that church or religion adds more, to poverty. if you talk of religion generally, even the native doctor, you know, the guy that believes in herbs and others, he's also making fortune because people will go there, you know, for what you call divination and others. They will pay. He will get free fowl. He will get free goats. You know, all those things, when you look at them too, they will not rather increase his poverty level. It will reduce his poverty level because, number one, the money the person would have used to go to market, you know, he already has free goods. In terms of religion, people paying, for example, they say, pay this, that money, is it going to God? It's not going to God. It's you and I, you know, that will use it. But the issue is, how is the money used? That is the question. So I believe religion is not what is causing the poverty. It's more of government policies and assaults and poor implementation of poverty, not religion. Thank you.
All right. The program, of course, is Flipside, and today is World Eradication of Poverty Day. We're going to break on the show. When we come back, we will talk some more. All right, for those who just joined us, the program is Flipside. You missed too much. You have to catch up on YouTube to get the first segment of the show. But you're in luck because we're not done talking, and I'm not the only one in the house, of course. I'm Daisy Obaisado. Like I said before, I have Honorable Astor Philip in the house. He's many things. He's a two-time Councillor Igor, local government, Ward 6, and he's a farmer. He's a chairman, National Youth, Niger Delta Youth Movement, many things. We also have a chartered accountant in the house. Is okay. Let me leave it there. Bolaji in the house, and then our Babavo, yes, an economist who is helping us and joining us to break this matter of poverty on the rampage. Now, 87 million people are actually believed to be living in extreme poverty in Nigeria. Now we have about 300 million people in the world who are poor. Then it's just shocking that not in Africa now that we're contributing 87 million, just Nigeria alone is contributing 87 million of that population. Then the rest of the world is sharing the rest. And we seem to produce more and more. Maybe it has gotten to a time where we'll begin to pray that our natural resources should be taken away from us, and maybe after that happens, we'll start thinking of other ways to generate fund for ourselves. I'm wondering what the Western world is doing that we're not doing. Our Nigerian youth, at some point, the president made a statement that sounded like the Nigerian youths are lazy people. But we can see that our Nigerian youths are actually very hardworking. We do a lot of things. I'm a Nigerian youth. We do a whole lot to make monies for ourselves. And then we do even beyond legal, and we're doing a lot of illegal works right now. Yahoo plus, all kinds of prostitution, anything. The hustle is real. And we need to put a stop to that. We're in our country and we're poor. We'll leave our country, we're still poor, we're begging. It has to stop. What exactly are these Western countries doing that we're not doing? I'll start with you again, sir.
Yeah, it's true. Let's first of all look at China. China's population is about 1.4 billion. Nigeria's population is, let's say,
about 200
about
million.
200 million.
Yeah.
No census to that effect.
No,
anyway.
we don't do statistics.
that is it. Now, over the past 30 years, China, from statistics, has removed about 500 million people out of poverty. Since the last 5 years to date, they have removed close to 70 million people out of poverty. Now the question is, let's come back to Nigeria. What are we doing? If you look at all the poverty programs, they are interesting, they are inciting. But what I believe is what the Western world is doing that we are not. For example, China. You know, have we taken pain to sit down as policymakers to go to our rural areas to see how they live? Babangida tried that when he did DFRI. You know, his Directorate of Roads and Rural Infrastructures and all that. They tried to do that. It worked briefly, but it didn't quite work well because of individual interest. You know, if you go to China now, one of the ways they were able to develop their environment and move people out of poverty is to face the rural areas, you know, where you have the basic infrastructure. For example, you are saying I should go to farm. I'm not going to farm with my teeth. Nigeria should have gone beyond using hoes and cutlasses to farm. We should have gone beyond that. Even if we have not gone beyond that, what about the roads, the basic rural roads? What are we doing about it? Assuming all the roads are nylon tied, what about, you know, energy? What about storage facility? Yeah. Somebody who has a cassava, let's not go to some cassava, vegetable farm, pumpkin. You know, you harvest your plant, it's at the farm gate there. Once you cannot remove them, the first, second, third day, they are all gone. So what is government doing about it? I'm trying to say that in the developed economy, those are the things they do. There was a day I was at the airport. Was it at the airport? Yeah, we were just chatting, and you know, a white man came and I shook hands with him. We were talking, we were introducing ourselves. I said, I'm this, said, is this, and I shook hands with him. He said, I'm Farmer John. So what do you mean by Farmer John? He said, yes, I'm a farmer. Let's tell ourselves the truth. How many of us will go to certain place and introduce ourselves as farmers? You understand? I cannot imagine it. But when I even shook hands with him, I saw his farm. Mine was even, somebody that works in an office, mine was even stronger than his own. And I'm sure if he shakes me today, it's still stronger than his own. Because the type of farm he does, I believe, he's just sitting down and pressing some buttons, go around the farms. Do we really have farmers here? We have. But what type of equipment has government provided for them? If you go to the northern parts of the country, you know, you have big farmers there. Yeah. But most of them still use this manual equipment. Even if some few of them are fortunate to use tractors. So in the developed world there are so many things that government shows interest that probably we do not show. Okay, I'll give you an example. You know, somebody close to me sometime came and said he wanted to go into cattle farming. Then after cattle farming, he will go into what we call slaughterhouse. I said, how are you going to do it? He said, he will bring the equipment. We'll just set up the place. It's the machine that will pick the cow, slaughter it, and the bone is somewhere, the flesh is somewhere and thereabout. He said he has the money, he will do that. But somehow, he looked at the environment, the basic light is not there. You know, how is he even going to bring the equipment, the tax and other things? Even if government says for agricultural produce, you don't need to really pay us on that. You see? So, basically what I'm saying is, in the developed world, there are things that they see as important. Do we invest in research? We talk about seedlings. I am a lecturer. You know, I'm not a practical farmer, but I've done some works in agriculture and others. You see, they will bring seedlings. Sometimes you see this pawpaw, very huge pawpaw, very big pawpaw. Those are not just the pawpaw we plant. You know, these have been researched on. Even the rice we are talking about. What is the quality compared to what they bring from abroad? So I believe that, number one, there are the basic equipment that those ones have that we do not have. Number two, what is their basic education? Let's look at agricultural schools. What are they teaching there? is something we must think about. If you go to some of their schools there, some of their universities there, when you are in agricultural school, you should have a practical farm. So that when you even come out, you don't even need to think about working for anybody. But here you are agriculturist, you do physics, chemistry, and otherwise. Maybe you do a small farm in your school. At the end of the day, you say you are an agriculturist. Those are things we need to talk about. So number one, what they are doing there that we are not doing, we should restructure our educational system, particularly something that has to do with agricultural schools. Number two, our government not politicizing incentives given to farmers. Some time ago, too, I was driving along TV road. They said government was bringing grants, or they brought money for farmers. And I just parked to see. The farmers I saw that they were all wearing agbada. By the time you see them, you will know that since the past 20 years, those cars have not had cutlasses. The incentive from government doesn't really get to the actual farmers. Whereas there, they have a system put in place. You don't need to go there and queue and otherwise. The thing is there, it's there. So those are the things we must look at. If we really want to face reality that those guys are doing, we must develop our rural areas. The rural areas they are developing. For example, you find out that nobody wants to live in the rural area here. Assuming you ask me and I say, well, I'm a so-so person, I come from so-so village. You know, some of you will look at me one kind in the recent. Whereas the Oyibo man, the guy at the other end, they are migrating to the rural area. Yeah. So that they can have opportunity to get farm and get fresh air. So if government develops the rural area like it is done there, so we'll have, you know, something like that here. That is just what I have to say for now.
Okay, first point, education has to be worked on. Yeah. We have education, free education in primary schools, but is it quality education? Big question. Anyway, I'll come to you now. This year's STEM, International Poverty Day, is focusing on bringing the rich and the poor and breaching the very big gap between them. And so Nigeria, of course, will have a long chart. We'll go for the summit that the World Bank and the United Nations will have, and we'll have representatives, and we're going to talk about how we're going to merge this gap and ensure that the rich will mingle with the poor, would intermarry, would do business together. Well, Honorable Asuru, how do you see that ever working in Nigeria?
Well, I think the rich and poor coming together, it's something that is very possible, but it has to begin with having a platform or a room for you to elevate the poor from the lower cadre to get at least to the middle, even if they are not even up to the higher level of the ladder. Because where you have a man that cannot take care of himself, his basic needs, he wants to get married to a daughter of a big or a billionaire, it's like the head of a cow wants to pass through the eye of a needle. It's very difficult. But I think if there are so many persons that you see people now, they say, what's your father's name? Who are you? Where are you from? Who's your father? We have seen people that they don't have father's name, but they have been able to strive, they have been able to hit the ground running, and they create a name for themselves. So I think if the poor people have a good avenue, like what my colleague was saying just now, was like, another thing I wanted to add to what he said, like, if, for example, I am a farmer, I have my farm like in, let me say, Ekboma or Irwekme, and the road is not motorable for me to bring my crops or my beds or whatsoever I have to the town where you have the larger population. That, and because that larger population, is the center where you are going to get a lot of customers that are going to buy what you have. So if you have such things, you end up finding the so-called poor person that is a farmer not being poor anymore. It's even in the Africa we see farmers like poor people. In America or other countries, farmers are the richest people in those countries. Like when I went to Israel, I was shocked to see fruits and so many farm produce grow in a place like a desert, because the government have been able to make things work for them. Like Israel is one of the country that fits the U.S. with what they grow from that small country. Like every land in Israel, you already have a pipe. Even if the land is a bush, there's no farm, there's no house, there's already an access pipe, which means if you are coming to build your house there, for example, or you are coming to make a farm there, it's just question of the relevant authority just tap you. Like if I have a farm now, I'll need water, and there is no water, which means I need to look for money to sink a borehole. So it's going to really affect the poor farmers. So if we have these basic amenities like light, we have water, we have roads, I think the average Nigerians, people are not asking government, come and give me money. If you even look at the numbers of, compared to the population of our country, how many people are actually employed by the government? There are very few. An average Nigerian wants to create a job for himself, wants to be a boss of himself. But when you don't have all these things, if I have a farm, I cannot use the road, and the product I have cannot stay like 1 week. And even if it's going to even stay, I don't have light in that vicinity to preserve it. So which means I'm not going to leave that low level I am. But if I have those amenities, and immediately I raise my product, I take it to the farm, I sell and make my profit, I'll be running back to that farm, because I know my feeding, my livelihood is coming from that place. Because they say put your mouth where your money is. So when I know that my life is there, I will go there the more. So if government can will have roads, water and light, so many persons prefer to stay in that place we call the village. Because you have the better air, and you don't have noise, and you see the natural life, the natural environment all around. Yeah. So I think with those basic amenities, we can lift the so-called poor people to a middle class, and by so doing, bridging the poor and the rich will be very, very easy and
I would just like to say
and possible.
Yeah, bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. I just laughed. It's after today, what next in terms of poverty day and so on and so forth.
So next day.
Number one, when we are growing up, it's either you attend Edo College, Idia College, St. Maria Goretti, Edo Polo, and so. No matter which secondary school you go to, you end up in University of Benin, or Abraka, or Ekpoma, or Onsuka, and so on and so forth. But you can see the gap is gradually widening. Number one, somebody who attends private school A, attended private school B, secondary school, private school C, university. At the end of the day, the father is everything. He gets the best job, he gets everything. The guy who attended the public school couldn't even pay his school fees. He ends up as maybe a bus driver, even as a graduate, or a secondary school teacher, or teaching in a completed building, which they call a school. The gap is widening. It's difficult. It's just by God's intervention that the only thing that is even saving people now is I don't encourage this unnecessary illegal migration, people living in the country. That is the only opportunity some of them have to even meet some of these guys there. Yeah. Even when you go there, if care is not taken, the guy is a Queen's College, you are jumping from one fence to the other. You must have probably gone there. These are practical things. These are not things you read in textbooks. You see, the gap will always be there. But we believe by sheer hard, like he said, by hard work, you might probably get a good job somewhere that will also connect you. But ordinarily, they don't want the gap. They just want the gap to be there. Who is this man? What does he do? Oh, he's the son of one Baba, Baba. I don't want to see him here again. Those things we see in whole videos all the time. They are realistic. Yeah. We have to tell ourselves the truth. We are talking like this. If we have really seen poverty in action, as you are talking, you'll be sharing tears. That's the truth. That's true. So how many rich man wants his or her daughter or son to marry a poor man's child? It's a big question that will continue to find answers to.
Hopefully that tag, whenever they see a poor person coming close to their kids of you being a gold digger.
Gold digger, yeah.
Maybe it will be dropped. And then the last question before we leave, our time is actually fast spent. We're almost done with our 1 hour. So I'm going to ask you, Bolaji, or rather I will tell you to give a word to the youths. The 10% of the jobs that are paying people right now in the world were not existing some 20 years back. Technology has come to make life easier and better. And 10% at least, what am I saying? Maybe 90% of the jobs that will pay the most, they have not yet been created. They don't exist right now. We have a lot of youths in Nigeria who are very intelligent and smart. We see how intelligent they are with the amount of cybercrime they are into. And they're making a lot of monies. But we do not see the investments of those monies they make. I'm still going around town, and the best I think I've seen is a duplex, a 2-bedroom, 2 flats with tenants. Yeah, that's what they build, and then it's just this pattern and this particular color, and then they go party. We're not seeing the investments. So you're gonna give a word to the youths. You're a young person, and you do a lot of things that you make money from. And I'm sure when you started, you didn't have plenty cash. I don't know how you went about all the businesses you're into, but just talk to the youth right now before we go.
Well, I want the youth to know that what they need to come out of poverty is not physical capital, talking about finance, but what they need is character. Character. One of my, I'll call him a mentor too, I listen to him often, Olakunle Shoriyan, he talked about reputation capital. This is what most of our youth they lack. Now, you've been in a community, probably been with my guy here. He knows me. I'm around the boy, a guy in the street. Oftentimes he sees me with a football. I play ball. The other time I jump the fence. The other time I'm fighting. The other time I'm, just one trouble to the other. Then all of a sudden, he knows me, Ipadomosa, all those kind of greeting. I greet him often. Then one day I'll just walk up to him and say, sir, please, I have this business idea, sir. And he's like, you come and look at me again as a business idea. And sir, I just need like 10,000 naira to execute. Probably at the time I came, my purpose is genuine. But looking at my antecedents, what I've been doing, the man is going to look, I'm sure he has more than 10,000 naira to give to me. Yeah. But his concern is that if I give him this 10,000 naira, he has seen me several times at the bar, trying to drink with some friends. Then he's going to look at this guy is just looking for one way to rip me up of my 10,000 naira. So he's going to look for one excuse to give to me. But now, this same guy now, another guy, the second guy, is also in the same neighborhood. But once in a while, he plays ball too. Sometimes, probably on a very rare occasion, I have seen him in some trouble. But when he tried to investigate, they found out that somebody was just trying to make some trouble with him. So I'm not trying to exonerate this other guy totally from what some of the challenges this other guy has gone through. But oftentimes he has always come to meet a parent and say, please, please, if you have any job at all in the house to do, please, I'm available. And he knows that this guy is from a very poor home. And then some other times you have seen him maybe joining in the uncompleted house and he's joining them to build. And then on the other time he's going for a lecture to read. You saw, where are you going to say? I'm preparing for my jam. Maybe pursue, the exams they are writing. Then this young man come to meet Oga the other time and say, please, I need some money for a project. I'm sure he's going to go in and say, please take this. So what I'm trying to talk to our youth is this. The life you live, you don't even need to be a Christian or a Muslim now. But the life, the quality of life you're living will go a long way to determine who is going to stop by and help you. I've also found people that have helped. I gave an accommodation to someone, but he turned the place to a place, in the night he goes, leave the place and go to other houses and break into their houses. Then over the time he was caught and something happened. Now, that was an opportunity I gave to somebody because I actually picked him up from a completed building. And I said, okay, let me just give this guy
his free space.
But at the end of the day, it was something else. So, first of all, what you need to get as a youth is not money. You need reputation capital, not financial capital, not economic capital, reputation capital. What have you been able to do with your life before now? What have you been able to do with your time? People are watching. People they've been seeing. It is what they've been able to see with you or what you've been doing in the past
That's what's going to encourage them and say, okay, I think this young man can do it. I'll give you a story. One of my very first business, I'm rushing now, please. Okay, my first business, I wasn't having money. I stepped into it, I needed about 200,000 naira to run this business, and I didn't have a dime. But when I started, I walk up to people. I won't make most of the people to give me money. They've known me. And some of them also wanted to try my integrity. Then there were some persons I promised, I said, in 2 months' time, I'll be bringing this money back to you. When it got to that same day and I wasn't having the money, I walked up to them and said, sir, please, the money I promised I was going to pay, do you know the time I came to borrow money from you? I borrowed from about 7 other persons. I've been able to pay this, I've been able to pay this, but please, can you give me 1 more week? Then when it gets to that 1 week and I still don't have the money, but somehow I have part of the money, I will no longer go with excuse or story now. I'll go with part of the money. Sir, I now have part of the money, but can you give me another day to complete? Do you know what happened? 2 things happened. Some of the people wrote up the debt form. They said, you're so sincere about this thing. Then some other person said, I'll give you time to pay the balance. So we need this, because this is what most of us, the youth, are lacking. They believe they need money. It's not money they need. They need integrity and they need character.
Yeah.
All right, I want to say thank you to all of my guests in the house today. You've really done well, and I've had fun and I've learned a lot. And now personally, I'm just going to give a word out to everyone involved in this matter, because all hands have to be on deck. The politicians, our leaders, the spiritual leaders, and even we, the Nigerians in general, our parents, the children, everybody needs to work together to achieve a society where poverty is so reduced, if not totally eradicated. After all, Jesus said the poor will always be amongst us, but we can reduce people from just being extremely poor to just being poor, and then the number should be very small. It shouldn't be a large number. It shouldn't be running into millions. Now, the major problem I see amongst everything we've talked about, education. We all need to wake up. And then the fact that we lack lights, basic amenities, lights, and road. It should be time. After all, we are now government to ourselves when it comes to water. There's no more water board. We gave ourselves water. Maybe Nigerian youth should sit down and use their brain to create sources of power so that we can render these power generating companies useless. And then we give power to ourselves, make it cheap and accessible, and things will start getting better. I think we all agree on that, right? Things will start getting better. We need power. Churches could invest in this power generating business because they generate a lot of income. Invest in it and you even start getting returns. Get someone with integrity and with good brains. Research cannot also be left out. We need to do a lot of research. Go to the labs and put different things together, animal husbandry, cross-fertilize, and eventually we get bigger and better produce. And all of these things will help to alleviate, if not totally eradicate, poverty. My name is Daisy Obaisegma. Don't forget, there will be a replay of this edition at 4 a.m. And then from tomorrow, you can actually watch the old episode over and over and over and over as many times you want forever on YouTube. All right, thank you so much and have yourself an amazing rest part of the day. All right, bye.